Now, in the UK, there's a rising sentiment that the police is more preoccupied with the diversity, inclusivity, and equity, the DI agenda.
Yeah, I think they've given us good reason to suspect that might be the case.
Than it is with law enforcement.
What with painting their nails and wearing high heels and driving around in the rainbow cars and stuff like that. That was a clue, I think.
Yeah, things like that. And there are also the videos where we see police officers who are unable to, let's say,
yes,
to enforce the law, and
those are always funny. I like those.
Yeah,
ones.
with the suspects. Yes, and there was some that was viral. If you remember, there were 5 police officers who couldn't detain a suspect.
As you may know, YouTube arbitrarily demonetized our channel, so I'd like to thank Lotus.com's first sponsor, Atlas VPN, for supporting us and providing a service that is actually useful as we move into our new cyberpunk dystopia. Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the description to sign up. You'll be liberated from region locks, so you can watch streaming content from anywhere in the world, but I think more importantly is that it masks your IP. Firstly, this prevents us from being spied upon by the various state dragnets. We find it important that it keeps your Google searches private, which prevents them from tailoring the results based on your past searches, which prevents them from hiding information because they've built up a profile against us. It also protects you from being the target of malicious ads, trackers, and malware, and informs you when someone is trying to steal your data. There has been a spate of people getting their accounts hacked recently, and Atlas VPN helps protect against that. Atlas VPN is also easy to install. Even I could do it without assistance. What you're seeing now is the footage I recorded of myself installing the thing. Once you're logged in, you can see that you just need to click on the location that you want to tell the internet where you want to be from, and you're all set. To repeat then, Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month with a 3-month extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the service. Follow the link in the video description to sign up, and remember, supporting them is supporting us, so please do check them out.
And okay, there was all sorts of panic around this, and it was weird because it showed basically that there are some police officers that have got the job and that they seem to be vastly underqualified, or basically they don't seem to be the right people for the job.
Well, my dad was a policeman, but that was back in the days when you had to be like, I think at least 6 foot to get in.
Okay.
And now you get these 5'3" women, and you just think, yeah, how's that going to work?
Yeah, and the problem with these incidents is that they are not isolated, and they get seen, they become viral, and this leads into the communication of a message of reluctance of the police force to enforce the law, and also a sense of futility in reporting crime, especially what are considered to be low-level offenses. Now, this sends the wrong message to the wrong people. It sends a message that you can get away with offenses, and it sends the wrong message to many vicious people. Now, speaking of vice and virtue, you can visit a website, Lotus, and you can basically subscribe. You can with £5 a month, and you can have access to all our premium content and watch, for instance, the latest symposium that I did with Carl on Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics. Part 1. There will be a part 2 released this coming Thursday. Now, if you want to listen to Carl talking about vice and virtue, be sure to subscribe and watch our video. Now, back to our topic. According to Gov.uk, overall crime in the UK is decreasing. But there is an issue that this is very abstract. I mean, what do you mean by crime? What kinds of crime? And also, how do you measure this?
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say. That for me sounds very much like, who's doing the counting? Who's doing the classification of crime?
Exactly. And let us see this website here, the Office for National Statistics. It says, crime in England and Wales, year ending March 2023. So it compares many years that end in March.
Yep.
Each year ends in March. So we have March 2019 to March 2020.
Yep.
And, and it goes on. So it says, okay, main points. The latest figures from the Crime Survey for England and Wales, CSEW, for those interviewed in the year ending March 23, that means for the year March 2022 to March 2023, showed that compared with the year ending March 2020, pre-COVID pandemic, total crime decreased by 15%. Across the same period, estimates for individual crime types showed that overall theft decreased by 20%. The largest reduction was seen in theft from the person, but faults were also seen in other theft of personal property, 31%, domestic burglary, 30%, and vehicle-related theft, 18%. Criminal damage decreased by 33%. It says that there is a rise, especially a rise in electronic fraud. It says there was a 549% increase in advance fee fraud, while bank and credit accounts fraud decreased by 14%. And it says also here, police recorded robbery offenses were 17% lower than the year ending March 2020. However, it again stresses out pre-COVID pandemic. However, there was a 13% increase compared with the year ending March 2022. So what they're doing in this website, they're actually saying they're comparing data taken from the year March 2019 to March 2020.
Yep.
And they're comparing it with March 2022 to March 2023. Right. But there is no comparison with the previous years. Or they do say it, so they don't get...
Yeah, I get this.
No one tells them that
Office of National Statistics lot, and what they put in the summary tends to be a bit misleading, because you can go into the data, but it's bloody hard work to start digging. It's not that accessible to start digging through and make the comparisons that you actually want to make. What I want is an AI interface to this where I can ask the questions exactly like you just said. But I mean, just thoughts on that, right? Okay, those are pretty big changes. So that has to be behavioural change. And we know it has to be behavioural change because you can look at the prison population. The prison population has not moved. I mean, we're basically running at full prison capacity. It's not that high. I can't remember what it is, but it's much lower than you think it is, right? So either the behaviour of the criminals has changed, or, you know, the behaviour of the reporting of crime has changed, or something like that. But it's not like more criminals have been arrested or anything like that. That's definitely not happened.
Let's continue. It says police recorded offenses involving knives or sharp instruments decreased by 7%. But there has been a 5% increase since the year ending March 2022. Also, it says, for instance, the number of offenses involving firearms decreased by 2% compared with the year ending March 2020. But there was a 13% increase compared with the year ending March 2022. So, the thing is that the whole report is structured in a way that it focuses on the comparison between 3 years ago and right now, but it doesn't show the trend. It doesn't focus on the trends with the previous years. They make some sparring remarks about it. You know, by the way, this increased. Everything goes well. Crime has been reduced, but it's because at some point in the past it was a lot and now it's less, but it's worse than last year. And last year was worse than the previous year. No, actually, there's a rise. Sorry, let me revise the statement. There is a rise in crime. Okay? So so I'm not unfair. Okay, so let's go here into the talk about shoplifting, which seems to be basically out of control. I came across this tweet here by Martin Dobney, who says, lawless Britain, feral gangs swarm co-ops, brazenly looting, smashing shops, and assaulting staff. Police fail to respond to 71% of cases. Some forces don't respond to 90% of the calls. And we have plus 30% assaults and plus 35% crime and theft. Now, let's watch this video, please. Now, we don't have an audio for this one, but it shows that co-op has reported a 35% increase in crime and antisocial behavior. So we see many people who are basically kicking and trying to forcefully enter into co-ops. And we have two security guards who basically desperately try to prevent them from walking into it. And we have people shoplifting and...
Good God. Well, you really are a low-class criminal when you make co-op the target of your criminal activity.
And it says that this week we had more than 1,000 incidents in co-op of shoplifting. And it says that in the last year, we have thousands and thousands of attempts to shoplift. We see here people who, again, forcefully enter behind the counter. They, collect the loot. And this seems to be, they are calling for an urgent change in police response. Yeah. Now, all of this, let's say, is contributing to a feeling of futility. Yeah. Because, why call the police? They're not going to do anything.
I've got to say, around me, I don't think the staff would even notice if you shoplifted because there's nobody in them. There's like one staff member wandering around, but it's all electric tills. I mean, you could steal as much as you want and nobody would see it.
Yeah. So let's, if you're more interested into seeing about the co-ops, we see co-op shops hit by almost 1,000 crime, shoplifting, and antisocial behavior incidents every day. Sorry, correct me. I said a week before, but it's every day. It says a freedom of information request by co-op show that police failed to respond in 71% of serious retail crimes reported. Right. Okay. Now, let's look at some of the data from statista.com. Okay. It is data about the number of shoplifting offenses in England and Wales from the year 2002 to 2003 to 2022 to 2023. Now, if you look here, you will see that this is our year now, and you will see a very huge increase in the last 2 years.
Yep. So the COVID dip.
Yes, there was a dip, but there is a very rapid increase in the shoplifting incidents.
Yes.
Which I must add, these are the reported ones.
Yes.
If we factor in this sense of this rising sentiment of it being futile to talk to a police that won't respond to at least 70% of the cases, we will see that basically the reality is much grimmer.
So when does this go back to? It must be the early 2000s. And if you were to draw a line of best fit, I mean, you're getting a gentle upward curve. But I'm pretty sure vastly more cases, I mean, probably all cases would have been reported in the early 2000s. Yeah. And now I could imagine that a lot of it just simply doesn't get reported or even noticed for like the reasons I've said, the electronic checkouts and so on.
Yes. And we see here that it sort of peaked in the years before the COVID pandemic and before the war, which suggests, it may suggest, I may be wrong, but it may suggest that it's not just an issue of cost of living crisis.
Oh, yeah, right. Are you going to get more into that? Because I've got definite thoughts on the cost of living stuff, right?
By all means.
So, I mean, there is this debate. What is the principal driver of crime? Is it poverty or is it demographics, to put it like that? Well, you can look at the Great Depression, so the 1930s. Very homogeneous group dynamics. A period of intense poverty for at least 10 years. No increase in crime.
Yeah,
crime rates stayed the same. So poverty rapidly. So that debunks the whole argument that that poverty drives crime. Clearly, that's not the case. Then you can look at other Western demographics, and you can see at all income scales, the propensity towards criminal activity remains largely consistent. So you can have millionaire sports players who still commit crimes. It's not shoplifting, but it is other types of crimes, propensity to violence and various things. So on the poverty demographics, I'd suggest that a non-biased reading of it, the data says what it says.
Right. Now, this, as you can imagine, creates a, let's say, political problem. And conservatives now woke up and they want to tackle this shoplifting epidemic. And let's see what they have here an article that was published at the time. So it says here that since the era of austerity, forces across the country have abandoned many inquiries. Forces across the country have abandoned many inquiries into the most common crimes. Police have blamed pressure on resources, saying they need to focus on high harm cases and the most vulnerable victims. Until now, police have often refused to investigate crimes under arbitrary levels, such as a £50 threshold for shoplifting, even when there is evidence. In the year to March, forces charged the suspect in only 2% of vehicle and bike thefts, 3% of low-level assaults, 4% of criminal damage cases, and 4% of residential burglaries.
Yeah, so what I found is interesting there is the framing of this as being a post-austerity thing. So what they mean by post-austerity is after the 2008 crisis. What also happened at around about that time? Well, immediately after post-2008, everybody, the right and the left, was looking at the banks. They were looking at the power structures that have failed us on many different levels. Everybody was looking in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, woke and racial agitation got corporate sponsorship at the highest possible level. And this sort of demographic conflict got massively whipped up.
Yeah.
So I would say, okay, it's not the austerity that's causing this, because that plays into the poverty narrative, which I don't believe. It goes to the other narrative, which is demographic conflict.
Yeah. Let me continue. It says, senior police sources told the Times that some forces had been doing the bare minimum of investigation, such as gathering CCTV evidence, conducting house-to-house inquiries, and keeping victims informed. They said it was a mistake to view the most common crimes as low level and treat them in isolation, which may add to what you have been saying, because they had a major impact on people's life and organized gangs were often involved.
Yeah.
Now, in this climate, because these are promises, right now, these are promises that the police is going to respond more. There is a sort of incentive to get creative. And the majority of the public, if you see, the government has already announced that police will no longer attend the majority of mental health callouts, shifting the burden to health services in a move estimated to free 1 million hours of officer time. So they're saying we are basically giving this to the health services, and this is going to free time for police officers to basically go back to basics.
Okay. So, I mean, there is definitely something there in that law enforcement is used as a proxy for mental health services. I was watching at the weekend the interesting interview between Tucker and Andrew Tate, and he was asked about Romanian jails, and he said, yeah, they're basically full of mentally ill people because they don't have a mental health service out there. So basically all the mentally ill people end up in jails, and it's used to sort of cover for that. So I'm broadly sympathetic to having decent mental health provisions that can help in some of this. But when it's at the sharp end of a criminal act being committed, and you're sending out a bunch of social workers, that feels like the wrong intervention at the wrong time. You want to be doing mental health at a different stage of that process.
Yes, and I have the impression that there is an overdiagnosis of mental health incidents because we live in an era where mental health crisis is over. Everything becomes psychiatric.
Oh yeah, I mean on some levels,
everything becomes a condition.
Masculine behavior is considered a mental health.
Yeah.
Basically anything other than being a good girl is considered a mental health deficiency.
So there are here many CCTV cameras that have evidence, but if the police says that it will require them more than some particular amount of time to investigate them, they're going to look over them if they're going to respond. But there is also another issue. Let's show this, because sometimes you could even be looking at CCTV and that would be a distraction. Let's watch this next video. We have here twerking trouble. Police in Florida say a suspected shoplifter helped her accomplice steal by twerking in front of the security camera to distract employees. Officers say the two women got away with nearly $400 worth of merchandise. So it's not just looking at the camera, it's knowing where to look and where not to look, because it could be a distraction. So you see here, the one was twerking in front of the camera.
Oh.
Everyone, yeah, right. So let's move on here to Waitrose.
Yeah, change the video.
Yep.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Oh, thank God.
Let's move to Waitrose. Waitrose says that it gets creative, and it says the cure for shoplifters: love bomb them. It says Waitrose, as the supermarket claims extra friendly to customers, is an effective deterrent. Now, one thing, when people start talking about love bombing others, it sounds a bit sinister in the beginning. You know, the saying that, yeah, they love you, but they have a weird way of showing you. Apparently, Waitrose doesn't have a weird way of showing it. And it says, Waitrose claims being extra friendly to customers could prevent shoplifting. It comes amid a sharp rise in theft at £1 billion a year amid cost of living crisis. Now, tell us in the comments whether you think that will work. I think it won't.
I think they've just got a sharp PR person. I think somebody reached out from the Mail Online to Waitrose and said, what's your strategy for shoplifting? And it occurred to them that they could get a piece in the papers about what a nice shop they are.
What a friendly shop. Right, Let's watch the next video, please.
Not more twerking, is it?
People don't go to work in a supermarket to be abused or assaulted. Likewise, we don't go shopping only to see some unscrupulous thief running out with bottles of whiskey that they don't want to pay for.
We're looking at shoplifting, and much of the growth in shoplifting is being put down to the cost of living. So one would assume that there are there are adults over 18s who are shoplifting to help their children. Is it not unfair to only penalise and target the teens who are shoplifting and not the grown-ups?
Kindly show me the proof that it's driven by the cost of living crisis.
That's what the boss of John Lewis said.
Because I know, well, where's his research? I'd like to read that, please. Her research. Thank you very much. I stand corrected. A lot of the shoplifting that I see is just greed, thieving,
I don't
stealing.
think so.
Absolutely.
No.
So they can take it down a pub and flog it to their
There are
mates.
people stealing baby food, stealing formula, nappies. They're not doing that to flog it. They're doing it because they're desperate. They're doing it because they have no choice in the matter, because they can't afford
Not
to buy
everybody.
these things. But not everybody's
There's
doing
a
it to
high
get alcohol, are
percentage
they?
of professional thieving going on out there.
And are we saying
Not
those are
just the cost of
teenagers?
living
Because they're
crisis.
not, though. They're more likely to be the adults, aren't they? If we find out that most shoplifters are female, are we going to start banning all females from the shop? Where do we start? Where do we draw the line? If we start with the teenagers, where do we then say, OK, actually we find that a certain race is more likely to steal, or a certain
she's based, isn't she?
sexuality? Do we start saying that they can't go to the shop?
I'm not in the slightest bit concerned in who's doing the thieving. I want the thieving tackled by security staff, by the police, by the Crown prosecution system, so that people get in front of courts and are suitably punished.
You're a former police officer.
Yes.
Why aren't the police tackling shoplifting? Who's changed the priorities?
Many moons ago, the police stupidly themselves made it public that they wouldn't deal with shoplifting less than £200. That, of course, created a criminals charter. And unfortunately, retailers and members of the public are paying the price for it because so much is disappearing, which is not paid for. The retailers up the prices and us, the straight runners, go and have to pay more money.
I must say, I don't understand why you said she was based.
Well, she was basically just saying, if you ban these people from the shops, the problem goes away.
Actually, the other person, the ex-police officer, was saying that you need to make something. I don't think he was in favor of that policy, but I think she was trying to apply pressure.
Yeah,
she was trying to apply extra pressure to say so that she would say so that she would pressure him to conform into the woke agenda. So what are you saying there? What are you saying? What if some people of a particular group started doing this? Would you say that they shouldn't go into it? So I don't think she was saying anything. She was, instead of viewing the issue, she immediately ideologized it.
Yeah, and I must say, I used to live in a vibrant area of London, and there was the closest place to get a sandwich next to the office was a Boots. I used to go in there and see shoplifting all the time.
Yeah.
And it was never from the food section. It was always basically stealing makeup and stuff like that. Yeah. This narrative about poverty, it just doesn't work.
I want you to have a look at the next clip, which is basically the whole narrative par excellence here. It's advocated by some people, and I want your reaction to it.
What we have to ask ourselves is, what is a bigger injustice in our society? Is it the fact that millions of people in a very wealthy country can't afford to feed themselves properly anymore? Or is it the fact that people are nicking fruit and fibre?
Well, Claire, do you think it's wrong for shops to put the tags on?
I do, actually. I think it's really wrong. And it's wrong on so many levels. These companies are multinational companies, right? They've got the money. And I'm not advocating at all any form of shoplifting, because it's a criminal offence and it's wrong. It's morally wrong, right?
But if you can't put tags on, then it makes
no, but why?
it easier.
No, these are basic, fundamental shopping items that everyone.
What about corner
needs.
shops?
No, that's even worse, because that's someone's livelihood. They don't.
Well, exactly.
They don't
That's
have
the point. But what if a corner shop puts the tags on?
No, but I don't think anyone should put the tags on.
We all agree we don't want shoplifting, so let's abolish the underlying causes.
Why shouldn't a corner shop put the tags on? Because that's a big part of that person's income.
We should abolish the underlying cause of shoplifting.
And I think
is he
if
being
you actually
accidentally based
put
again?
tags on things, it highlights, I'm here to be nicked.
Harry, what do you think? Tags on nappies we've heard about.
Well, nappies, blocks of cheese, things slip into pocket.
So
no, you just bloody punish people.
Yeah, but the funniest thing here is when she says, don't put security tagging because it screams, I'm here to be nicked. To shoplifters, everything does. Okay. So, okay. And one other thing though, because many people don't notice it because it's in the context of, the left is always the sensitive one. Now, they're talking about multinationals that, they can afford it, as this person said. What about small-sized to medium-sized businesses who cannot afford it? What about them? You don't mind? Okay. Now, one thing, next link, let's see what is being done in some cases, because I want to end in sort of a white pill. Now, the government announces that there will be, as we said, that the police will no longer attend the majority of mental health call-outs.
Right.
Suella Braverman has promised that there will be reduced bureaucracy. And also we need to talk a bit about the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester. Where is the... Anyway, sorry, I can't find it here, but I'm just going to tell you. It's we have a Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, Steve Watson, who has called for a return to back to basics approach, which seems to be working. And it has a 38% increase in charges for burglary, 22% increase for robbery, and 53% increase for vehicle theft. So there are things to be done.
So I like fundamentally the way that he's approaching this, because that is the opposite to the Statistica thing. The Statistica thing is saying of the crimes recorded in the database, these have gone down. Don't care, because I can see prison numbers aren't going up. What he's saying is the charges for burglary are going up.
Yes.
That tells me that the police are doing something. It's not just the number crunchers.
And this is the main difference between between the left and others, the way they view things.
Yeah,
this is a specific policy that is meant to tackle a specific problem. So if you see before Owen Jones and the other person, they were constantly talking about, well, it's all about restructuring society completely. It's all about justice. It is, but they have a really weird view of justice. But what they are doing is that they are shifting focus from something that should be the judges at the judge's discretion to the shop owners and the police officers, because they constantly have this argument, well, okay, what would you do if, for instance, you were completely destitute? You would go and steal and whatever. They put this line of argument. That's up to the judges to decide. It's not up to the shop owner or the police officers. So that's it. I think that there's a shoplifting epidemic and it needs urgent tackling. Now, one thing to say, because I heard that recently soon you're going to be going on vacation.
Yes, plan to.
Will you go to a sunny place or not?
Hopefully.
So because there's a shoplifting epidemic, I would strongly incentivize you to buy sun protection.
Well, it's not that sort of holiday. I'm taking the missus with me.
Yeah, but no. Because maybe they steal it and maybe you get a sunburn. Like the daughter.
Sunburn. Right,
yeah,
yes.
Like the daughter of Heidi Klum. So Heidi Klum's modern daughter, Lenny, she shares glimpse of her horrific sunburn during exotic getaway. So maybe, you don't want to get a sunburn done. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Thank you for watching that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed, why not visit our website, where you can get the podcast live from 1 p.m. UK time, in full, uncensored, and for free. And for as little as £5 a month, you can get access to our extensive library of premium content and help us keep the lights on around here, with articles like this by John Tangney about political homelessness, with an audio-narrated track for silver and gold tier members. If you'd like to see the rest of the content that the team is putting out, you can follow us over on Twitter at @LotusEaters_com. Until next time, goodbye.